The Secrets of Star Wars is brought to you by the Star Quest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
Hey, this is Matt Landry, the voice of Anakin Skywalker in Star Wars The Clone Wars. You're listening to The Secrets of Star Wars. This is where the fun begins.
You're listening to The Secrets of Star Wars, episode 119.
Hello there.
It's a power that Jedi have that lets them control people and make things float.
Impressive. Every word in that sentence was wrong.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
It's against my programming to impersonate a deity.
That's not how the Force works.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force, and I fear nothing.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and I'm not Father Andrew, and you're listening to The Secrets of Star Wars, where we discuss the hidden layers and deeper meanings found in all the Star Wars movies, TV series, and more, and there is so much, much more. I'm Dom Bettinelli, and I'm joined today by Thomas Sanjurjo. Hey, Thomas.
It's good to be here, Dom.
And joining us now for the first time is Mike Denz. Hi, Mike.
Well, not for the. Oh, yeah, it is my first time on Star Wars.
That's right.
I think it's the first time on Star Wars.
Is it a Catholic mystery that, Dom, that you can actually be Dom and not Father at the same time?
Yes.
That's fantastic.
It's not much of a mystery, but and also a special guest joining us is Isabella Bettinelli. That's right. My daughter Isabella is joining us. Hi, Isabella.
Hi, it's great to be here.
This is an unusual panel for Secrets of Star Wars. We just had Star Wars Celebration. So much news. We just had the first two episodes of Kenobi. We had to talk about it. And unfortunately, things have come up. People have gotten sick or ailing or traveling or whatnot, and just couldn't join. And I couldn't let the opportunity pass. I said, I'll jump in and we'll have a recording. We'll do an episode. We're going to talk about this. We couldn't wait. We couldn't make you wait a whole week to talk about these first two episodes and all the news. So I wanted to start with, I want to get right into it because there's so much to talk about. I wanted to start with the announcements at the Star Wars Celebration. Now, in case you aren't familiar, I think most Star Wars fans are, but in case you aren't, there's an annual event that's put on by Disney called Star Wars Celebration. It's like a big fan convention. It's often in Anaheim, California, and then in off years, it's elsewhere. This year was in Anaheim. Next year it's going to be in London on Easter weekend, which is a terrible timing for Catholic Star Wars fans. That is awful. And they have all the stars, and then they have all the announcements. And so I wanted to go through some of the things that they announced and all the stuff that we've been expecting. And the first up, coming up in August, is going to be the long-awaited Andor series, following Cassian Andor, the hero of Rogue One, following how he, my understanding is it follows how he gets into the rebellion. And this is a multi-season story that is my understanding. And so in our the first season, it's going to be Cassian's entry into the rebellion. We're not going to see K2SO until the second season, unfortunately. That was my big thing.
Oh, man.
And then they also dropped a trailer. So just for talking about that, what do you guys think of this first bit of announcement, the Andor series? Have you been looking forward to it? I mean, what have you done? This kind of went under the radar for me for a long time.
Yeah, I think it's the same for me. I've been interested to see what they're going to do with it, but at the same time, I haven't really been too focused on it because it's very, like, I love Rogue One, but
yes,
what got Cassian into the rebellion wasn't interesting to me. Now, I have to add the caveat to that running the RPG with the crew here,
yes,
and seeing Mon Mothma on screen in sort of that time period that I'm running them through,
yes,
I'm super excited for that because that's going to give me lots of room to kind of add some things to spice that up.
Oh, good. Because I'm hoping we get more of that story because I'm kind of on tenterhooks of where it goes now. I want to find out what happens. Yes, and the trailer was pretty awesome because we had so much that was in there, including, I just have to mention the drum that the guy was playing, the big metal, almost like a table that he was banging. It was like a bell, which reminded me a lot of, there's an Orthodox log with a hammer and log thing that I've seen in one particular Eastern Orthodox monastery. And it can remind me a lot of that. But Mike, how about you? What did you think of the Andor announcement and/or the trailer? That was not a pun. Sorry.
I like anything Empire era. I'm very curious of what the Empire looked like. I think that growing up with the being 6-7 years old when Episode 4 first came out and everything, the mysteriousness of where the Empire came from and how Palpatine came into power and all those things and how they've been answered in different ways. So anything that has like stormtroopers and the Empire's lurking is just very nostalgic and very fascinating to me.
Okay. How about you, Isabella? What did you think of the trailer?
It looked like it's going to be a lot more of a grittier show than some of them.
Yes, it definitely looked gritty, and I'm wondering how Cashin is going to, how he's going to be compared to what we see in Rogue One, where he's very cynical and jaded. So there's a little of that. So it looks like there's a lot of grit in that as well, and in how he sort of becomes that way. So good. So that's in August. So not too long away, not too far away. That's the next thing after Kenobi ends that we'll be getting. Then we got a trailer for Bad Batch Season 2, which is also going to be this fall. Belle, what did you think of that? The Season 2, Bad Batch Season 2, and Omega looks a little different.
Yeah, she's obviously older. Time has passed. You can also see that they've Bad Batch has upgraded their kit a bit.
Yes. Yeah, they got a different look to their armor. They look a little more worn, battle worn. It's been, so obviously some time has passed. So that's what that looks. How about you, Mike? What did you think of Bad Batch Season 2?
Once again, we're getting into early Empire. They're dealing with. We saw them kind of encounter this new strange stormtrooper thing that they in the last season, and basically the phasing out of the clone troopers, which is really such interest to most Star Wars fans. Why did they not stick with clones? What was the reason? And then you started to see the I don't know what you call it, racism, but basically clones were looked down upon. They weren't as good. There's something wrong with you if you're a clone, you're defective, and how that was coming about. So it'll be interesting to see how that story continues to develop.
Right. Thomas?
Yeah, and then I like in this one, being a fan of the video games, that it looks like the Republic Commandos are going to make a much stronger appearance in this one, because there's a whole scene. There are so many Easter eggs in this trailer. I haven't even had time to pick it all apart yet.
I was stepping through some of the frame by frame a little bit on that one, because Bad Batch is probably, apart from in the animated stuff, it's the one I'm most looking forward to. And
definitely,
I think we saw Gungi, the Wookiee Padawan, who we saw from in Clone Wars.
We also saw the Emperor making some kind of announcement.
Yeah,
I'm wondering if he's going to announce the phasing out of the clones in favor of the Empire.
In favor of the
Stormtroopers.
Yes, that could be it. That could be a big one too, because and then that raises the question: what's Crosshair's story arc going to be? Is he ever going to get redeemed? And is he coming back? And then there's the whole unresolved, that the mountain that they were at, where the cloning sort of stuff was going on, and is that connected to what's going on in the Mandoverse and Grogu? And there's a lot that needs to be. And I noticed that a lot of what they showed in this trailer, they tend to take stuff from just a couple of episodes, most of it, so they're not giving too much away.
Yeah, it didn't look like they were definitely playing their cards close to their chest on this one. And even though there is so much in the trailer, just looking at the trailer, you have to pause almost every other frame, like you were saying, go frame by frame to figure out all the stuff that you're seeing.
Yep. Another one, this was an unexpected drop, was something called Tales of the Jedi. Bella, you were telling me about this. What is the format that they're going to be doing with this one?
Yeah, so they're going to be doing like short arcs of about 3 episodes dedicated to each Jedi. So each story is about a particular Jedi, their early life, how they came to be where they are when they enter the main story.
Interesting. Yeah, so we learned that we're going to have the story of Ahsoka, how she became a Jedi. and then we're going to have Dooku, so we're going to get light and dark, and we're going to get Qui-Gon as both Padawan and Knight. And I read that Liam Neeson and his son are playing Qui-Gon at different ages.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool.
Yes.
You can't replace that voice.
No. Well, Aslan lives. I
know I'm jumping ahead here a little bit, but I'm itching to see him in Kenobi. I'm like, it's gotta happen. And they teased it a couple times.
Yeah.
Yes. I could feel that coming. I feel it coming in the Force. You anticipate exactly.
Disturbance.
Yeah, there was a bit of disturbance in the Force. So that's coming this fall, and it's only going to be 2 stories this time. So it's going to be just 6 episodes of 2 different Jedi. And there was a description of it. I think Filoni called it, they're like tone poems in style. So I thought that was cool. Interesting. Yeah.
This is probably the announcement I'm most looking forward to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Then one that a lot of people are looking forward to is Mandalorian Season 3, February 2023. We got some hints. We're going back to Mandalore. Bo-Katan's going to be back, of course. We're going to get... everybody's back. Everybody's coming back. You just assume everybody's going to be there that you expect to be there. Boba, Fett, and Fennec Shand, and the whole gang. In fact, they showed a trailer at Celebration, but they haven't released it yet. And some of the descriptions said, well, we see Greef Karga, so it should be very interesting.
I'm intrigued at a couple of things on this one. I'm wondering how they're going to handle the Cara Dune issue and just writing her out. I'm also wondering how much they're going to be able to get away from people needing to see Boba Fett before going into this, because they've been trying to say Boba Fett wasn't Mandalorian season 2.5, but it was Mandalorian season 2.5. Right. It really was.
How are you going to explain Grogu not being with Luke if you haven't watched it? Yeah. I mean, I suppose you could do it in a couple lines of dialogue, but yeah. How about you, Mike? What did you think of Mando season 3? The announcement. What are you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I'm all Grogu. I mean, I'm not going to try to pretend to be cool and I'm really looking to see what kind of ship he might build to get next, or something crazy. I really, enjoy that.
I want to see the child.
I want to see the child. Just show me the child. Yeah. But there's different things that I'm curious to see how he learns with the Darksaber, progresses, and how he goes. I mean, he's obviously in 2.5, shifted from being a bounty hunter, big time. He's more of a, the one man A team. You have a problem? You need someone that can help? You want to barter? Yeah, so exactly. So that, but just to see, how his story goes, I love his story. I very much, enjoy his style. He's like Clint Eastwood in a Boba Fett costume. It's just fun.
He is the man with no name. So, or no face in this case. So we got Mando season 3. I'm trying to. I know we got to rush through this because we're gonna get to Kenobi, but there's one more series that we can spend a few minutes on, which is the Ahsoka series, which has started filming. It will come out in 2023 and has been described as the return of Star Wars Rebels.
Yes.
We know that Sabine is in it. What we've been told is, and again, this is another one that got stuff shown at Celebration that they didn't release to the public. But what we've heard is that Hera is in it. Chopper is in it. The Ghost will be in it, which is awesome. And that Ezra is in it. That they showed that mural from the end of the series with Ezra standing in front of it with his back to the camera. So, what do you think, Bella?
I think it's going to be awesome. And I'm definitely looking forward to it a ton.
Yes, because these are some of your favorite characters of all.
I find a lot of them as role models.
Right.
Especially Sabine.
Yes.
I'm so excited that she's coming to live action.
Nice. Very nice. Yeah. What we don't know is the story, what it's going to be. I mean, it's going to be the return of Ezra. Lots of speculation. We had the mention of Thrawn in the Mando season 2. So is it going to be about Thrawn, and then I saw some people saying that they think the Thrawn will be played by Jason Isaacs, which would be an interesting choice. I'm not sure why you wouldn't have Mads Mikkelsen. Is it Mads or his brother? I can never keep straight which is which. Lars, I think.
I don't remember which one it is.
I think Mads played Galen Erso, and whichever Mikkelsen brother did the voice of Thrawn in the animated. That's what a lot of people have assumed, but some people have said Jason Isaacs, which would be an interesting choice since Jason Isaacs was the Inquisitor in Rebels.
Right.
So kind of a funny, would be a funny switch. I just don't feel like that's going to happen. I'm
been so
hope.
quiet about it. I'm like,
yeah.
I'm really impressed that they've been as quiet with it.
No one's addressing the Thrawn in the room, right? That's right. So, and again, we're going to get that in 2023, probably later in 2023, not early. They're going to give us some space between that and Mandalorian season 3, I think.
Do you have any? I mean, this may be way too early to speculate. I'm very used to Thrawn in the novels that I listen to, because they're so great to listen to the audiobooks, and where he's more of a hero. He's and then you have the Thrawn in Rebels, who's definitely not. He's similar in his personality and his use of artwork and things like that, but he's definitely a bad guy that you don't like.
Right.
So I'm curious if they're going to try to blend those two. Am I listening to a lot of legends that are really not true, so it doesn't really matter?
I think a lot of it you are, because they haven't released too much about him in the new canon. There is a small bit about him.
Right.
But the other thing about Thrawn is it's always about perspective, because the stories are typically told from his side when it's about him. So if it's a book that centers on him, it's about him being a war hero. And you tend to forget in that the people that he's fighting against are the rebels that we've been cheering for decades.
Right. It's very interesting in that perspective how they do that.
In the newer Thrawn novels that Timothy Zahn wrote in the last few years, he's very much the hero of those books, but those also take place before all the time being spent in the Empire, and so that's going to change him. That 20 some odd years or whatever it was that he was in the Empire, and so that's the big tension for me.
Yeah. In the books, especially the newer ones, which are the ones I've read, there's often the fine line of perspective and who he views as the enemy and what his true goal is. What does he view as right? Because in the books, his view of right tends to be more of whatever benefits my people most. And his people aren't the Empire, they're the Chiss.
Right. So if whatever's happening in the Ahsoka series is about benefiting the Chiss, especially given that the Empire is gone, that could change things a lot. Yeah. So just to round out the announcements, they said that there will be a volume 2 of Star Wars Visions, the anime series.
I'm super excited about that. That's
not much else about that. Like even who is making it, which studios, probably the same ones, I would assume. They announced a new series called Star Wars Skeleton Crew, which also is coming in 2023, starring Jude Law, but featuring kids. So it's aimed at a slightly younger audience than the adult series.
Well, I be careful there, because apparently they're not. They're featuring child actors, but the series itself is still in that older tone, the tone that we've had for Mandalorian. Okay. And that was one of the things that they announced. I actually watched the announcement for this one because I wanted to make sure that I understood what was going on with it. And they were saying that while it does feature the kids as actors, it is still very much an adult show and might even actually push some boundaries past what we've seen in Star Wars already.
Oh, okay. When they say kids, maybe they mean like teens and that sort of stuff then.
It's supposed to be 10-year-olds, but I think what they're doing is trying to take it. What it sounded like is they're trying to take the concept of the Ewok movies, but making it not teddy bears, right? So there are some parts of that movie that are really scary, where they're dealing with the monsters and the giant that they have to go and face. Remember. And so I think they're trying to pull more of that in and give this sense of these 10-year-old kids lost in this really scary world that they have to kind of grow up through.
That sounds a lot like Stranger Things then,
I think that might be where they're going.
In an adult situation. Oh, okay. Then the other one that's definitely for kids is Young Jedi Adventures, and that's, they said, is aimed at pre-K and early grade school, and set in the High Republic. So, and that's all the announcements I saw. So some notable things that are missing, right? Thomas, you
No
mentioned in our
movies.
Slack group, no movies. That they had announced movies in the past. They had mentioned that Taika Waititi was developing one. They mentioned that there's a Rogue Squadron being developed by Patty Jenkins, but no mention of any of those, which was interesting.
Yeah. Well, in this recent Vanity Fair article that they talked about, one of the things that they kept hammering was the rebellion will be televised. That was their kind of mantra for it. So I don't know if it feels like, especially with Kenobi being as cinematic, but also ready for TV as it is, that they're really finding a lot of value in being able to invest in this space because they've pushed the technology so far forward and they can do so much on a smaller budget. And, Kenobi just shows that it's an amazing, the capabilities that they have, which we'll get into in a minute, I'm sure.
Yes. Yeah. Any other thoughts on these announcements, Mike or Isabella?
Nope.
One more. I'm looking forward to the new Jedi Survivor game that's coming out.
Yes.
So this is the sequel to the Jedi Fallen Order.
Right.
That was really just a smashing success. Everybody loved that game. I haven't played it yet personally, but knowing that there's an actual sequel to it, and even having had the game spoiled by the countless reviews of it, I'm looking forward to getting Fallen Order and then following up with this one as well. It looks amazing.
It's EA, right? That's Electronic Arts.
Yes.
That's why I'm rooting for Apple to buy Electronic Arts, because we can get all those games on the Mac. So that's on Secrets of Tech. We'll talk about that there. All right. So let's get into our the marquee event here. We're going to talk about Kenobi, and we're going to talk about parts 1 and 2. They released both the first 2 episodes of the 6 at the same time, early. Actually, they released them early Thursday evening, I think, East Coast time, Thursday afternoon, West Coast time, something like that. Anyway, we all got to watch it, together, the 2 episodes together. So let's get into the story. It starts it doesn't start 10 years later. It starts with Order 66. Right. There was some criticism of not warning people, like even putting up a content warning just before it starts, given the events in Uvalde, Texas, just before. Showing the Massacre of the Younglings is that's a hard thing for some people to watch right after seeing the news like that. So I get that. But in any case, I think it's a vital scene, even though we don't know why it's vital until in these first 2 episodes. But so we have this Jedi Master. She's teaching she's leading the kids into class. Clone troopers come in, start shooting, and then eventually the Master and the other Jedi Knights are cut down, and just the younglings are left and trying to figure out what to do. What did you think of this scene, and what do you think is going on here? Because I have my thoughts.
I think there's been a lot of speculation about it, which is good, because it's an impactful scene to open with, and so it's got to mean something, which I think we'll talk about as we go through. But my thoughts on the scene too. First off, it feels like the thing you get at the beginning of a Star Wars ride, which is not a criticism. It's actually great because you feel like you are being drawn very much into the story by watching this. So it's almost like that first segment of one of the the Rebellion ride, or the ride that they have that you ride on. Rise of the Resistance. That's one. So it feels like that drawing in, which was excellent, and the choreography for this Jedi, completely different from anything we've seen for other Jedi, and it was perfect. I loved the way that she fought. The way that she was deflecting the bolts by actually being aggressive with throwing them back was awesome. It felt so tactile and very much like what I would like a Jedi's fight scene to be like.
Seeing the camera fly through it, that is what it felt like in the ride. Like if you were in a ride, that's how you would kind of fly through the scene with them. You're part of it. What did you think, Mike?
I have some strange observations. One of the things that I recently watched on YouTube is, and I don't know if any of you guys saw it, was the ineptitude of stormtrooper shooting being explained by the Force.
Okay.
That the Force was with Han, Luke, and Leia and Chewbacca on the Death Star, which is really like a big part of where the stormtroopers get their bad shooting, because they were down hallways and they couldn't seem to hit anything. And these two clone troopers come in and they got like 10 kids and the Jedi, and they just shoot like perfectly right through them, 2-3 shots until she like opens up her lightsaber and starts flicking. I'm like, wow. That was just, I mean, that
terrible
was amazing. I was like, yeah, it was so hard not to hit anything. And that was just one of the first things. It's like, oh, it's already started. Like they can't, but at the same time, they're in the Jedi Temple. At the very least, you might think that some of it was the Force that was with a particular certain Jedis like this one, where she lasted a certain amount of time with everyone shooting at her like that.
Right.
She even seemed to take out one more clone trooper after she got hit once,
right,
with her fatal wound. So it was really amazing, because that saved those younglings to run down the hallway. So yeah, I was clueless. I was kind of enthralled with everything, so I had no idea or no thoughts on what does this mean. Who are those kids? I'll wait for you guys. I have ideas only because I've seen some things.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to what you guys have to say about it.
Belle, what did you think?
Well, I think it really helps set the scene and convey, again, if it might have faded, the exact horror of what happened.
Right. The horror and trauma that Obi-Wan experienced.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I think you're right. I think that's a key element to this series, is to set Obi-Wan where he is 10 years after the events of Order 66 deep in the trauma. He is traumatized. He is shell-shocked. He is a war veteran who has not been treated for his battle fatigue, as they used to call it. I think you're right. It really, by taking us back to Order 66, it reminds us of the trauma that Obi-Wan received in those moments.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of all of this, to see the shell of the man that's left 10 years later. And just to kind of think about, when we don't often think about how these people seem to, like, episode 4, was that one day? That was a long day. I don't remember anyone sleeping.
Right.
Like he woke up looking for R2-D2 and he went to bed. I blew up the Death Star. I mean, that was a great day. But, so you kind of like, that's a lot of trauma. Like, how did, Luke had no time to mourn his aunt and uncle, those kind of things. So now we're seeing 10 years later, and, I'm sure you're going to get into it, Dom, but just the different things about him that some people are comparing to Luke in episode 8, that he was kind of scared or just dejected. I don't think that's characterized at all. I think it's very different for him.
Right.
But, there's a very different than the confident, hello there, Obi-Wan that we saw at the end of, the end of Revenge of the Sith.
Well, and I love the fact that they've given him space. And it's really interesting because you have a character here who's appeared in the whole frame. We know his whole frame, right? We know basically most of his beginnings. We know his end. And what we're seeing here is a middle portion of his story. And he was already a pretty well self-actualized character by the end of the prequel movies. And when he fights Anakin, something breaks, and so he almost goes through an opposite character development arc there. And so now what we're seeing is the arc that he's going to go through to bring us to the wise master in the hero's story that Luke has. And we see him at the beginning of that journey, and it's very clear that he's a different person than either of the two versions of him that we've seen so far. And Ewan McGregor does such a good job of conveying that on screen, and of, there's a lot of internal references just to remind us that he looks worn down or broken, but it's clear from the acting and from the way that he's presented that he's not the same guy that he was or will become.
And the way they structure the early part of this story, where we have him going through the routine, the drudgery. We see him do the same things in his day at the meat packing plants in the middle of the sands of Tatooine, and with him taking a piece of meat and folding it up and putting it. It's the same drudgery every day. And that's become his life. He went from being Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi in the temple on Coruscant to guy on the Outer Rim, just making his way, earning his pennies, and just keeping his head down. And how far the mighty have fallen.
I'm really surprised they didn't call it Ben Kenobi. I think that would have been a really way to say this is a different man. This is the story of Ben Kenobi.
But they can't. I'm going to get into, I think that's going to be a very important part, especially as we see the story develop here, because I was not expecting where they took it in these 2 episodes.
Right.
And where they did closes so many loopholes and makes for an excellent argument about why they called it specifically Obi-Wan and not
I knew you
Ben
guys
Kenobi.
were going to say that. I'm like, I'm probably missing something. But I just think Ben Kenobi would have been such a good thing.
I think the other thing I have to say here before we go on is my son ribbed me because we were watching this one and he looked at me and he said, "Hey Dad, you finally got your slice of life Star Wars here."
That's right. You're always talking about that.
I'm always talking about that. Here it is. There we go.
That's good. and we have to keep in mind too that Yoda sent him with Luke. He said, while you're out there watching over Luke Skywalker, you need to be communing with the Force and learning to learning from Qui-Gon, contact Qui-Gon, and learn how to do all that stuff that Yoda learned in season 6 of Clone Wars about how to become a Force ghost and commune with the Force and that sort of thing. And so we see him struggling with this. He's got the nightmares of the events of the fall of the Jedi, and he's got the calls out to Qui-Gon at several points.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was thinking that the nightmares are also a way of indicating the post-traumatic stress he's suffering from.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's definitely true. Yeah, it's coming out in this. And I had to keep reminding myself of where he is and what he knows and doesn't know. He doesn't know that Anakin is alive.
Right.
And I had to remind myself of, like, with the other characters, Leia only knows him, and I am kind of jumping ahead. Leia only knows him as Ben. He's not Obi-Wan Kenobi. And remember, in A New Hope, she never gets to meet him up close. Leia, she only sees him way from far away just as he dies. So that's one of those things I have to keep reminding myself what people know and what they don't know at this point. And that's key.
Another thing now, Thomas, you tell me if I'm wrong, but they missed another big opportunity when he was trying to get her to come with him out of the cell she was in. He should have said, "I'm your only hope." And that would have been such a nice homage.
Yeah, well, I have a feeling they're going to get there because I was really struck by that whole second episode, the interactions that they have, and you notice he never mentions his actual name.
That's right. That's
he
what I'm
says
saying.
That he's Ben, and so she doesn't know, and the way she's talking to him, she keeps saying he's not a Jedi. She says that she'd heard all the Jedi were dead. So I can imagine Bail Organa sitting her down and saying, there are these great men that existed. They kept order in the universe, and one of them was Anakin Skywalker. One of them was Obi-Wan Kenobi. And so that's what she's expecting, is a name like that, like a name like like we would think of, like if someone was saying a saint's name, and then they said, "Well, my name's Joe," and it's like, okay, that's not really a saint's name. So, where are we going with this? Yeah. And that's what I think she's feeling for her there.
And it was great that he's describing, you remind me of someone who, well, your mother, but I can't tell you that. What's wrong? You seem upset. Well, I just found out that your father's still alive and I didn't kill him like I thought I did.
Right.
You can't say those kind of things.
And nobody knows that Anakin is alive at this point. Even Bill and others, they only know of Darth Vader. That's another important thing is to the galaxy, Anakin is dead, and that's another important point. When you talk about the cell opening, I know we're jumping ahead, but why not? I was waiting for her to go, "You're a little tall for a kidnapper," or something along those lines. That would have been awesome.
Oh, I missed that idea too. That's great.
Fan service.
Always getting yourself
captured.
captured.
The army comment though was almost had exactly the same air.
Yes. Where's the army?
What the heck?
That was good. Sassy whenever she gets rescued. So let's talk about the Inquisitors. We're on Tatooine, and we see this scene where the Grand Inquisitor, who we know from Rebels, in this case played by Rupert Friend, does a really good job of it, I think. And the fifth brother, who's also we saw in Rebels. And now a new character, the third sister, also known as Reva, hunting Jedi. They go into this bar and they basically expose this young guy, Nari, as a Jedi. The Grand Inquisitor has this great line that we don't have to hunt the Jedi hunt themselves because they can't help helping other people. And that made me think of during the persecutions of the Romans, of the Christians, how, the Christians exposed themselves because they couldn't help but be Christian and do Christian things and proclaim the love of God and praise Jesus and do all these things that exposed them to the persecutions and the martyrdom. And so I thought it was a very interesting parallel there. I don't think it's necessarily intentional on their part, but it gets at a truth that there's a truth in us that wants to come out and you just can't suppress it. And it just has to be seen, a light.
I like them going in that direction. Oh, okay, yeah. Go ahead. I'm going to
push back. Yeah, let me push back before we go too far down being really on it, because I think that the opposition to that is seeing Obi-Wan and the fact that he is having to suppress that tendency, not because he's broken. And I think there's more to him than just being broken from what he saw. It's that his responsibility is to keep Luke and Leia safe. And that's his entire mission at this point. And so what you see with the Jedi is actually an interesting problem of an idealist that no longer has an ideal to serve. And they can't keep themselves from helping because they have this ideal that that things are wrong and I'm going to fix them. Whereas and that's where I feel like it differs from the early Christians, because Kenobi's response is for a person. It's for helping a person. And so he's suppressing his desire to help, his desire to fix things, his desire to see the world the right place, because he has this other purpose that he needs to focus on. And I was really struck by that watching this, that Nari is, he can't help himself. He has to try, he's got this savior complex, right? Where he has to try and fix the world. Whereas Kenobi is doing the opposite, but not because he's fearful, more out of a sense of needing to keep anyone from knowing about Anakin's children.
I'll see your pushback and I'll add to it, which is, even in the early Christians, there were some who had to go out and be the martyrs, but there were obviously many people who stayed home and took care of their families and didn't deny Christ, but they were not called to martyrdom. But you're right. I think Nari has a savior complex in that case. I mean, we see him kind of jumping out there like that. So
he's Obi-Wan's playing the long game, like there's more going on here than just the right here and the now. He did seem fearful in a sense of the way he was talking to Nari, like, bury your lightsaber, it's over, we lost, so he wasn't really explaining much. I think he just wanted the kid to, simmer down and not get himself killed and not get him caught either.
Right.
But it's also a common trope, like, we'll lure out Superman by getting Lois Lane, it's something that they do because the good guys are going to have to come out if you're going to do something like that.
Right.
Thus, we have, the
Reva.
alias Ben Kenobi with the glasses, so no one can recognize. No, he didn't wear glasses. But he's got to be different, so no one can recognize that he's really Obi-Wan.
So we have this conflict in the Inquisitors between Reva and the Grand Inquisitor. She's impatient, impulsive, aggressive. She has this personal vendetta against Kenobi, and that's where the theory comes up about the identities of these younglings. That there's a tall African-American looking youngling among them who could be Reva as a youngling. And she would probably, so what would be her motivation? Why would she become an Inquisitor? So she's force sensitive, obviously. That would make her qualified. And maybe just anger at Obi-Wan for abandoning the younglings, for training Anakin to betray them, or, you're his master and you let him do this, or whatever it would be. But I think that's my theory. And I know a lot of people it's not a unique theory. I know a lot of people have come up with it, but what do you guys think of this idea that
I think she's gone. I think she's a step further. I think she wants revenge against Anakin. and she knows he's Darth Vader. And so she knows that, because I mean, she's shown that she's willing to use someone as bait. And I think that's what she wants, is an audience with Vader so that she can get what is due her. That's the way she responds when she's asked what she's doing, is that she can get her due. And she wants a chance to take on Vader herself.
Oh, interesting.
I bet that's where this is going to go. I'm
pretty certain. Bill?
The Grand Inquisitor also refers to her as having come from the bottom of the gutter. So perhaps she did escape the temple and
ended up in the streets.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would track. Yeah. I like the idea that her revenge isn't against Kenobi. He's just a tool to get to, because she says, I want what I'm due. And yeah. And the Grand Inquisitor thinks it's all just about getting, power and, getting the raise and promotion from the boss. But no, she wants something more. I like that. I'll be curious to see how that pans out. So we see Obi-Wan watching over Luke. We only see Luke from afar, and I have a feeling that's it we're going to get of Luke in this series. I think this is going to be about Leia, which it answers that interesting question: is how is Obi-Wan going to do his job in this series without revealing himself to Luke? That's because he's not going to be working with Luke. He's going to be helping Leia. But he does send Luke a toy, which is that little Skyhopper. Was it the
it's a T-16.
It might be a T-16, but it's the fighter that he's playing with at A New Hope when he's sitting there in the garage while.
So he gets it to Luke eventually.
Yeah. So he does eventually get it back. Owen rejects it and sends it back to him, and we get that line of the boy's going to have to be trained like he trained his father. Like, that knife goes in and turns.
A little too soon. It's been 10 years. Give me a little bit more.
Too soon. And then we go to Alderaan. We leave at Tatooine and we go to Alderaan, and we see Leia. She's precocious. She rejects the formality of the royal life. She wants to run in the forest. She's mischievous. She also gets told by her cousin that she's not a real Organa because she's adopted. At which point Bail takes her aside and says that everything that makes her an Organa is in her heart. So I've heard criticism of the casting of this actress. She does read. I have a 9-year-old. Okay. She reads younger than 10, much younger. She looks like she's 6.
My daughter said that too. She goes, she's 10.
Now, the reality is the actress was 9 when they filmed it last year. So she's just a small kid. She's just,
to be fair, Leia's small.
Yeah, Leia's short. She's always, of course, she was around super tall people all the time. Darth Vader and Chewbacca don't make you look exactly towering.
Yeah, exactly. But there was also criticism of the acting. What did you guys think of the actress, the little girl who played Leia? Thomas, what did you think?
Second watching, I liked her a lot better. Okay. So I watched the episodes a second time. I liked her a lot better the second time. The first time I had some problems with her. I think I'm going to say it it wasn't just her, actually. It was the mom figure as well. They both have to deliver a couple of lines of dialogue that are talking about Star Wars centric creatures. And so so the mom says it's like raising, and I didn't catch what it was, but it was an offhand comment of a wild animal that she was trying to raise. And then Leia has to do the same thing. She'd rather be eaten by something. And I'm going to say Carrie Fisher is the reason Star Wars is what it is, because of her ability to deliver the lines like, you're a scruffy looking nerf herder. Yes. I'd rather kiss a Wookiee. And all of those feel perfectly natural and like they came directly from someone who had an experience with that creature at some point in their life. Right. And it didn't happen with both of these, with both of the instances where it was done in this show. So I'm hoping that kind of evens out, but
it's an interesting insight into the acting. Yeah, I didn't catch it when I watched it, but I can see where it feels like they're delivering a line as opposed to just talking, and that's a big difference. Mike, what'd you think of of this actress?
I usually don't have a lot of problems with child actors and actresses. Lloyd didn't bother me in
in Phantom Menace.
Episode 1, Phantom Menace. You know, I mean, he bothered me in the sense that it felt like a kid movie at the end with, you know, this is like pod racing. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is life and death. But anyway, you know, meanwhile, like, you know, Qui-Gon's getting killed and he's like, woo.
Yeah.
So, you know, that was a little bit Ewok-y to me, but I had more of a problem. I mean, not to backtrack too much, but with Moses as Reva, Moses Ingram, I don't know. She didn't come across as Star Warsy to me. I mean, maybe because the other Inquisitors were just so cool looking and so otherworldly looking, alien and everything. And she just, I mean, just looked like, you know, just a mad woman, an upset woman that was upset with something. And, you know, it could have been that her taxi was late. I mean, it just didn't come across to me as like there was something sinister or something really, I don't know.
She could have been dropped out of any American city, and
it just didn't. It wasn't convincing for me. Whether it was the casting or her performance choice or whatever, that's where I was just like, you know, it didn't hit me. But no, I mean the mother, I enjoyed the probably because, you know, with you and Isabella, Dom, and me and my daughter kind of thinking, oh, she's a daddy's girl. Yeah, of course she is. You know, daddy lets her get away with stuff because that's what dads do.
That's what we do.
Yeah. That was kind of fun. You know, yeah.
Belle, what'd you think of Leia?
I liked her.
Yeah. She had some spunk to her. I think we all kind of liked her when we watched it.
I like the spunk because, I mean, when you watch Star Wars, Princess Leia has this fire to her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Even when she's like got the older dignity and control, but the fire is much more evident because she hasn't learned to control it and keep up the royal face.
I think that's actually the one good thing they did was, at least whether it's in the writing or the directing or even just in the actress, is they did imbue her with some of that fire, and it wasn't like over the top, you know, like too obvious, but there you could see the roots of Leia's, you know, fiery spirit in her. So
I enjoyed her comeback to her cousin, regardless of how she knew that stuff or.
So there's my question: is she using the Force? Yeah, because we see like there's a few instances where she does that, like just very insightful thing.
Yeah, so. She does seem wise beyond her years in different ways and situational things and stuff, and that was. I thought just really cool. I really didn't know if she was just going to run off and cry, and instead she just like.
So there was some criticism of this because it's like, well, Leia, in the trilogy, never showed any Force powers. So why would she? It's been established that kids have Force sensitivities and intuitions young that, if not developed, fade in adulthood. That can be regained if they try, if they train, but they fade as they grow. So you could see that that's how they end up finding younglings for the temple in the first place. So I could see that.
And I wouldn't agree with she had no. I mean, I think hearing Luke in the end of Empire was, you know, a Force thing, and it wasn't just because they were related and we didn't even know that at the time, but that she had some Force sensitivity. So yeah.
Hey, with no promises, she convinced Han to stay with the rebellion.
That's right.
People don't give her enough credit for that.
Yeah, that's
because it wasn't Luke that told him we really, you know, it was kind of her sideways comment of like, oh, well, you're just going to run off and do your own thing because that's the way you are.
Right.
That really nettled him into coming back.
That could have been a Force intuition insight. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
you will undo these binders and drop your gun.
So Leia is kidnapped by mercenaries. We always see bounty hunters as the generic bad guy in Star Wars, but there's some kind of bad guys hired by Reva to be taken to another planet as bait for Obi-Wan. Not because he knows, or maybe she does, but where the implication is that she doesn't know that Leia is Anakin's daughter, but that it's Bail Organa's daughter, and Kenobi was close to Bail Organa and will come out of hiding to help him. But maybe if what you're saying is true, maybe she does have an inkling who Leia really is. That might be possible.
It wasn't apparent, but it was interesting as I was watching it. I'm thinking, why doesn't she make it easier to find her if he's trying to draw her out? But at the same time, she had to be careful of I need it to be a Jedi that has to do this. So it has to be hard enough to need a Jedi, but easy enough that he definitely will be lured.
Right.
You know, like where he hides her. Obviously, she was not in the room that he thought she would be in, but still, you know, to draw him out, because you don't want just anybody, like, you don't want to just like make a ransom and meet us here and this is where she'll be. Right. Then anybody might come, but hard enough that he would have to contact
that only a Jedi could do
Kenobi.
it.
Yeah, I need Kenobi for this because he'll be able to find her.
Right. So that's what he does. Bail Organa, he calls Kenobi to get his help. Kenobi refuses over the phone.
Over Zoom. I think it was a Zoom call.
Yeah, it was a
Zoom. It was a Zoom hologram.
I never agreed to anything over Zoom anyway, but you know, but he refuses. I have to watch Luke. I can't. I have my duty. And Bill gets him. He says, "You have a duty to Leia too. Like she's also your responsibility." At which point I'd be like, "Well, where was Yoda? It's his responsibility too. I'm not the only one." Anyway, but was it his duty or was it fear or trauma that kept him from agreeing to go?
Combination, I'd say.
Yeah.
I feel like it was more like the latter, but with like, he's telling himself that it is his duty because he wouldn't realize that it's fear or trauma.
Right. He wants to believe that it's his duty that is keeping him there.
I mean, one of the things that you could argue is that his presence is just as dangerous to Luke as him not being there.
Yeah.
You know, because he's so afraid of being discovered, and then they'll link it all to, wait a minute, you know, Anakin Skywalker had a family or whatever. Well, but so there's that.
There is the elephant in the room, which is the problem that George Lucas created, which is Luke Skywalker is living on Tatooine, where Anakin Skywalker is from and was born around the time that Padme was pregnant. Like it's just, if you were to write this now, you would never have him called Anakin Skywalker. He'd be Anakin something else, or you'd change the names to hide him better. But like, why didn't they change Luke's last name?
Lars. Yeah. Luke Lars.
Right.
Little alliteration.
Just like Leia Organa. So, but we have the story that was written, and that's what we have to deal with. Let's all, bow to it and move on. Just
well, but I don't know that anybody really knows who Luke is. Like, it's not
right.
I mean, I guess his friends have to eventually, but by that time they're hoping that it's just blown over, or maybe it's a common enough name on Tatooine that
that's the other thing. Maybe Skywalker's like Smith. Everybody's named Skywalker. So when Luke refuses on the Zoom call, Bail comes to Tatooine personally, which is a big deal because Alderaan is in the core worlds. Tatooine is way out in the booties, and he's coming all that way. And that's I forget now. Does Kenobi agree before or after he sees the body of Nari, the Jedi that he'd sent away?
I assume he agrees before.
I think it was after. I remember as I was watching it, Maria and I were going, okay, what's going to happen? What is it? What is he going to see? What's going to happen that will make him decide? And he digs up the lightsabers and takes off. And I think is when he saw the young Jedi hanging Nari in the, which was interestingly enough looked like he had a parachute accident rather than being hung, but he was supported by the
crossbeam
bridge thing there. Yeah, the crossbeam. Yeah.
Disney is not showing people hanging by a noose. That's for sure. So that's the thing that I think pushes him over the edge. He goes into the desert to dig up his lightsaber. I knew I left it around here somewhere. Like
that was Jedi powers. I mean, that was about the only Jedi powers he showed. Like, how did he find the lightsaber?
Maybe. I
don't know. Unless he had some sort of tracking system in there, I guess.
Well, you can do it by landmarks. Like if you line up a couple of landmarks and you've got
a lot of sand.
Yeah. It is.
Well, I don't think it's force powers because I don't think he uses the force. He doesn't use the force at all until that moment. I think in fact, when he's shooting the blasters in the next episode, when he's all the things he does without the force until that moment. And I want to talk more about it, why perhaps, and the consequences when we get there. But he does dig up the lightsaber, books passage off planet, and then goes on board with a lightsaber swinging from his head.
Well, no, wait. I'm even before that. Let's move back a little bit, okay?
Yeah.
You don't want to look like a Jedi. So what do? You throw on a brown robe with a hood.
Yes.
Nobody else is wearing hoods. Just Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Right. Dressed with like a Tusken Raider. No one will think you're a Jedi.
Wear smuggler's clothes, like look the Han Solo outfit or something. Right, I know.
Yeah, he's got like when every kid shows up like at Halloween dressed like he was. It's like, hey, Obi-Wan, or at least a Jedi.
Well, which is the irony is that the Jedi of the prequels look the way they do because they wanted them to be recognizably Jedi and look like Obi-Wan. Even though Obi-Wan was in desert clothes, so it just
it's retroactive.
The circle is now complete.
It's like a double retcon. So that's where we ended episode 1. Episode 2 is showing up at another planet, the planet Dayu, and I think it might be Planet of the Week here in these episodes. I don't know if we're going to get a new planet every week. It's a sort of a almost like the
Las Vegas,
Vegas, sort of, or I was thinking of the place in Japan, the Chihabara district. I forget what it's called, but there's a district in Japan that has all the fluorescent and all that sort of stuff, and that's what it looks like. Nice touch. The clone trooper begging Tamara Morrison as the clone trooper, begging for some money, which was a shocking moment for Obi-Wan because. Seeing a clone trooper, Order 66,
Also, the fact that he was from the 501st unit, which Obi-Wan was very familiar with.
Was it a 501st clone trooper?
Yeah, there were blue stripes on his armor.
Oh, that's a touch I didn't notice. Very good. Yeah, that's that would be even more so in that the guy didn't recognize him. And then we have Haja El-Estri, this fake Jedi con man, played by
Kumail Nanjiani.
That's right. I keep trying to say his name right. Kumail Nanjiani.
Oh man, he's so great. And
it was so good.
It was flawless. The way he played him, and first off, the character was awesome, but then the way that he put him together, because he can do smarmy so well, he just really pulls it off.
So I saw Kumail Nanjiani on Twitter this weekend, and he was talking about how he and his brother used to were big Star Wars fans. It's of an age, and he and his brother used to compete to see who had all the most action figures and the best ones. And he's like, "I win. I'm in Star Wars.
I have become."
So
beat this.
So he's conning people.
I am an action figure.
Yes, exactly. He's conning people. He's taking their money, but he is. As he says, he's getting them delivering what they asked for. He's just getting money from them. And then he later on, he helps Obi-Wan. He does this crazy thing by saying, "I'm a Jedi," and offers himself up to an Inquisitor, which could get him killed. Why? What is it like? Why does he do that if he's just a con man? I'm curious what you all think of what's going on with him.
I just think that there's more to this character than we thought. I mean, he seemed like just a con man. Which was a great idea, by the way. I mean, like that. This is we finally see somebody saying, like some sort of voodoo, whatever. I'm going to pretend to be a fortune teller, whatever that we see all over the world. People trying to tap into the spiritual, and finally we get somebody who pretends to be a Jedi.
Yes,
and he's got all the magnets and the things, and he opens the windows and stuff. It's great.
Like my siblings and I have put magnets in gloves and pretended to use the Force. And the magnets always fell out.
All kids do that. They try to do the Force with the magnet stuff. Yeah. What were you going to say? Something else about that?
So I was going to say, I think one reason why he offers himself up is because everyone wants to believe there's something good left in the galaxy. He thinks all the Jedi are gone and that there's no harm in pretending to be one. And he realized that there is something true, something worthwhile and ideal left.
Right. I mean, it's the seeds of the rebellion, isn't it? In the sense of that there's this hope still out there 10 years after the Empire began that's starting to bubble up.
Well, and he belongs to a group. So, it's not that he's not just shipping people off planet. He's actually sending them somewhere. And apparently it's something that we're going to see. I'm hoping we get more information about it as we go through the rest of the season, but it looks like that's where he's sending Obi-Wan and Leia.
Right. True.
So maybe he likes the money, it helps, but it's also a way to get people to where you're saying, Tom, that he wants them to go. Like, if I pretend I'm a Jedi, they'll trust me so I can get them to this safe place.
Right.
And I will point out that if you want people to do stuff for sure and to show up, charge them some money and they'll actually be there.
People won't believe you if you don't charge them money. That's true.
That's true.
So Obi-Wan ends up rescuing Leia by pulling a Breaking Bad and infiltrating a drug lab. It's almost like an episode of Miami Vice. I'm sorry, I'm dating myself. And he defeats the kidnappers. So he fights the bad guys, not using the Force. Again, there's no sense that he's using the Force in any of this fighting. Stops the kidnappers by throwing spice in their face, the spice that this kid had given him in the street, and gets her out of there. Of course, we have that scene where she thinks that he's a bad guy and it whacks him one as he comes into the cell and that sort of thing. So he rescues her and then gets her outside. And then when they start to the kidnappers disseminate his information, put everybody on the lookout for him, the bounty on his head. Leia sees this and realizes that she was bait for Kenobi. And for some reason, this makes her distrust him and run away from him. I thought that was kind of odd. That
she thinks he's a bad guy. I think it was amazing that she figured that out. I was just started, okay. I mean, that was good. Just let me go back real quick to his fighting.
Yeah.
I love the way he's rusty. He hasn't fought anybody in a while.
Yeah.
I mean, the old Ben Kenobi would have, lightsaber or not, just easily handled these guys. And he had some trouble. So I liked how they had that obvious rust and, using the Force or not, he wasn't his old self.
That's true.
Yeah.
But it was interesting that this young girl would know.
Yeah.
Would figure that out. That was another intuitive kind of but you're right, Dom. Why that's a bad thing. Why that makes him a bad guy, I don't know.
I think there's a difference between, I just kind of tagging up on that. I think there's a difference between Force powers and the Force, the intuitive use of the Force.
Okay.
And you see, a man who's 10 years out of practice being able to fight the thugs the way he did, that's obviously a Jedi's reflexes, right? That's kind of a different sort of thing. Like you've got this enhanced sense about you that you can see things at a different level.
Okay.
And I think Leia is exhibiting some of those same things, right? Where she's not using the Force per se, but she's intuiting things that she shouldn't be able to as a person who's gifted in the Force. And I hope they do more with that, because they're actually, if it's inadvertent, it's really interesting that they're doing it inadvertently, but they're designing this difference between just being aware of things because of the Force and using the Force as a Force power sense of things. And I think Han kind of fits into that really interestingly, because there's a lot of situations where we see Han being so exceptionally lucky,
right, that
it's unreasonable that he could possibly, or talking his way out of a situation that he's talked his way into.
Yes.
And it's impossible that it could come about that way, but that's Han, And so I think we'll get more kind of delving into that without really revealing the mystery. I hope that they kind of plow that field a little more.
So then we get this. Oh, did you have something you want to say?
So I was going to say about why Leia would mistrust Obi-Wan Kenobi. She's only 10. She's all alone on this planet, and she's rescued by this guy. So, you think you trust him, but what if he's just another bad guy who also wants her for money?
That's true.
What if those are her father's bounty hunters who are trying to get her back? You're all alone in somewhere you've never been. You panic. Like when I'm a kid and I got lost in the Museum of Science, I panicked. I didn't know what to do. I ran around.
Which is precisely the opposite of what I told you to do.
You should have used the Force.
You should use the Force.
You should have used the Force.
Actually, I did go to a grown up and get help.
You did go to a grown up and ask for help. So which is good. And that's, you're right, actually, that she has no reason to believe that he's not just another kidnapper trying to take her from the first kidnappers and use her. And she's never been off planet. That was another thing she said earlier, that she's excited to be off planet. That's true.
We can save this till later, but it's just interesting as we're talking about this. And when you brought up Han, Tom, it made me think about it. The things about Kenobi that we can know from what he says and does in A New Hope And one of those is, in my experience, there's no such thing as luck.
Right.
So he attributes, much like a good Christian would say, there's no coincidences, there's just God incidences. He sees the Force working in everything.
Right.
And when Han says, in my experience, this is a certain way, and Kenobi just kind of has a smile, and he puts the helmet on Luke and just like, well, let me show you, because he knows, and he's got many more years of experience in all this. And he may have a little bit of insight into, if not Han specifically, at least Han type, because he's been around, these guys on Tatooine for how long. So it's interesting to see if they're trying to bring back certain things, like why does Kenobi know there's no such thing as luck?
Right. So we go to this race and battle along the rooftops because Leia, for some reason, climbs to the roof to run away from him, and he's chasing after her. And the bounty hunters, including a Velociraptor man,
that was awesome.
That was so awesome. It's like they went to I think Mike Creevy said in our Slack, he's like, it's like they went to the prop room for Jurassic Park and grabbed a Velociraptor head. So this would be awesome. Let's do this.
I want more of them. Where are they?
Yes. So he's simultaneously trying to avoid getting shot and to shoot back while chasing after Leia as she runs pell-mell over those rooftops.
As we're thinking, she's running right into Reva. She's probably running right for her the whole time because she's watching from the rooftops. So how she missed it, I don't know. It must have been a different rooftop.
Well, Reva's too busy doing some parkour on the rooftops there. She's doing her thing. And then Leia tries to jump across this gap that's too far, and she falls and grabs onto this line, which no kid her age would ever do. So that must be the Force that helps her grab onto that line. That was unlikely, and she's going to fall to her death if Kenobi doesn't save her, and so he has to reach out to her with the Force, and it's hard. It's presumably the first time he's consciously tried to use the Force in 10 years. And he had to strain to connect with the Force again. And I like this, that we're really delving into what does it mean to commune with the Force, to be one with the Force, to use the Force. It requires constant practice and meditation and work. It's not just something that comes naturally to everyone. I really like the fact that in these intervening years, we've been really developing the idea of what it means to be a Jedi and to be a Force user. So I really, it was interesting to see that in this scene. And it seemed like a turning point for him as well.
Yeah, the only way they were going to draw him out, I mean, not that was anybody drawing him out, but he was only going to be drawn out if he absolutely had to, and he absolutely had to. And it was also one of those, rare times when the Force is used to levitate a person, usually like, why can't Jedi fly? You can do all this thing.
They can jump.
Argue about that. They can see to jump really far, but they can't fly. It doesn't make sense. It seems like they should. And also, they don't seem to levitate, other people all that much. Like, give you a Force push so you can get a little further, whatever.
Right.
But he literally is, levitating her to the ground, which is, you don't often see that.
I do remember seeing it in one episode of Clone Wars in particular. Anakin ends up blowing up a giant wall, and they toss the Captain Rex off the wall and then use the Force to levitate him before he hits the ground. So he has a soft landing.
Yeah. So so it's not, you don't see it too much. You don't see it in the first 3 movies ever. And then, and then some of a lot of the cartoons and different things they've done it. But anyway, it was just one of those rare times.
Yeah. So they get chased to this unmanned automated cargo port. It was sent there by Haja, the Ustri, the fake Jedi. And so they go there. They're going to get on board because they can't get out of the regular spaceport. And then Reva follows them there. And she tells Kenobi, while she's stalking him among the cargo in the room, she tells him Anakin is alive, which shocks him. And he realizes, and at this point, for some reason, he realizes Anakin is Darth Vader. Something reveals this to him, that they're one and the same.
Well, he already heard the name in the temple.
Well, he knows who Darth Vader is, but now he's connecting Darth Vader and Anakin, that they are the same person. And I think that happens here at this moment.
Are we sure? I mean, does he not know that he's calling himself Vader when they fight? Is that not revealed to him?
On Mustafar?
That's,
Mustafar, he never, okay. I don't remember one way or the other that he calls himself that. So, but that was really a nice moment for Star Wars fans. Obi-Wan finding out that Anakin didn't die and is still alive, and that he's Darth Vader. Getting to see that I know what kind of pressure that was on Ewan McGregor. Okay, now this is a moment. This is a gut wrenching, huge moment. We're gonna really close up on you. Are you ready?
Yeah.
To have that come out. And he did great. I mean, he's an excellent actor.
Yeah. And I have to say that it was a really interesting scene because they did build the tension very well. And I love Reva's lightsaber, the noise that it's making. And I'm super hyped to see that they're using those FX lightsabers to their full potential, because that's what she was walking around with, was like an actual real blade that lights up and it kind of has the noise inside of it. And it changes the way the actors interact with them. And watching her do that was really cool. Added a lot of that tension. Like she was ready to use something that was really in her hand.
Yeah, it changed that's the great thing about when they're making these new shows, whether it's they're in the volume with the projection of this of what is the world, or they're using these props that feel and look like the real thing. I think it does change how they act. And if they'd had this for the prequels would have been a whole different thing. I mean, a lot of that wooden acting and wooden delivery was the green screens and the fakeness of it all. I mean, it just couldn't be helped. So plus the dialogue, but so the Grand Inquisitor shows up and stops Reva again. Like, how many times has she had Kenobi in her grasp, and he literally, by stopping her, lets Kenobi escape? It's kind of a fascinating thing. And he basically assumes she's jockeying for power. She's trying to get his job, basically. And she sabers him through the middle. Now, he can't be dead, because we see him in Rebels. I'm not dead yet. I'm feeling better. I think I'll go for a walk.
He's only mostly dead.
He's only mostly dead. What have you got to live for? Sorry,
Darth Vader.
Yeah, too many. Too many movie references.
Too many movies. Yeah, there's a lot of it. So just a flesh wound.
So that was very wild that we get this. It was unexpected. I think literally nobody expected that to happen. Nobody expects,
especially him.
Nobody expects the pierced Inquisition. Sorry.
I mean, they're literally Inquisitors. How can you help that?
Yes. All right. Sorry. I'm done. So, but even while she's doing that, it lets Kenobi get onto the cargo ship. And you have this close-up of him saying, Anakin. And at that moment, we switch to the back to tank and Vader waking up in the tank, and then the breathing. Oh my gosh, there could not be a better way for an episode to end.
Now, do you get the sense that Anakin heard him? Is that what we're supposed to? That was, I thought, like it was like a force connection, and he woke up, he heard Kenobi say his name.
I think he sensed Kenobi thinking of him, like making that connection. I mean, Kenobi's
calling out to him. Yeah.
I think so. What do you guys think? Bella, do you think that was?
Yeah, I think it's quite possible.
Yeah.
I mean, in Clone Wars, at moments of great distress, sometimes
there was a connection. Yeah. It's a brother, right? You're my brother, right? That's true. Yep. So, and that's where it ends. So,
that was Hayden Christensen. He got credited in the end of the episode. He showed his partially masked, beat up face.
I don't think they're done with him yet, though.
No. That wasn't all of it.
I have a feeling it's coming.
Yeah, and I want to talk more about that in a sec. Any last thoughts on the episode before I want to get to talking about some of the critiques and some of what we think's coming. But thoughts on the episode, Thomas?
So I have two really big things that I was struck by. First off, the diversity of the background characters was incredible. I absolutely love the fact that this felt like an alien star system.
Right.
You had all sorts of really crazy, weird stuff that didn't have a story. It didn't need a story. And that's the way the original was. That was what was so great about the original. And I think we lost some of that with the prequels, where everybody kind of had their groups that they were with, and so there weren't these just like random guys showing up that weren't part of some greater group of some race of aliens that was part of the galaxy. So I really love that. And then the other thing that I thought was really cool was I was really struck by the fact that the Inquisitors are named some numeral and a daughter or a son. And I'm wondering how much of that is, and I hope they explore this, how much of that is Vader's naming of the Inquisition.
Right.
And he names them because he doesn't have his child. Because he doesn't know that they were twins, but he doesn't have his children. And so he's replacing them with these others that he's pulled in.
Right.
As his surrogate children.
They're his children. They are brothers and sisters. They're kind of a family, which Anakin really never had. He never really had a family. It's interesting to think about.
Yeah. I was going to mention the Inquisitors. I really liked the costume design. The design of Riva was something I had floating in my mind for an Inquisitor character of a similar design. So when I saw that on screen, I was like, that's my design. I knew that that would work.
It's got vaguely Vader overtones to it, doesn't it? The Inquisitor outfits. Yeah,
definitely. The one critique that I know what they were trying to do. I couldn't help but think of the Eternals when I saw them first exit the ship, and they're all standing very far apart in this kind of like formation.
Right.
Like, we're here. Ta-da! And I was just like, it wasn't natural enough. I mean, I think if you would have just kind of like kept moving instead of like standing there for the awe moment, that was a little bit too forced for me. And the wide berth of the three of them kind of in that, I just thought that would, it didn't work. But I love them otherwise. I mean, they're one of my favorite things. I remember them, from Clone Wars and Rebels and whatever they were in. I apologize for getting things mixed up in my head. But, their round sabers on the back, all of them having those. And I really did enjoy them. But I just thought that grand entrance fell flat for me.
We did get to see the Grand Inquisitor's rotating saber, which we remember from Rebels. That was
as he
awesome.
Struck down Flea.
yes.
I remember the characters in Rebels commenting on the lightsabers a great many times.
Right. Mike, did you have any other final thoughts on these episodes before we move on to critiques? Okay.
That was it.
Bella, any other final thoughts we can cover?
There was a new background Inquisitor, the fourth sister.
Right. The fourth sister. She
looks cool.
Yeah, she does look cool. And I'm guessing we're going to see more of the Inquisitors as we go. So some critiques of the episodes, just that people have brought up, that maybe the jittery camera movement was a little much at some times.
Oh my gosh. I wonder if they didn't have like a failed Steadicam and they just didn't realize it until they got to editing and were like, there's nothing we can do about it now. Because there's some points where it makes sense. So like in the beginning when they're doing the run through the the lightsaber fight with the clone troopers, it makes sense not to have the Steadicam going.
Yeah.
We feel shaky. We feel like we're there. But then there were a couple of other times where it was like, it was supposed to be a first person perspective, but it was shot over the shoulder and it was moving, and it was just really jarring to me. Like it really took me out of watching what was happening. And I was like trying to watch why the screen was jiggling around the whole time.
Right. So there was that one. There's been some people saying that the Moses Ingram, we talked about this before, some uneven acting from her was not always convincing. And then
I mentioned that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I gave my critiques early. I'm sorry.
That's fine. That's fine.
And I critiqued the entrance.
I think hers is gonna be one that ties in towards the end, the way that Snape always got that in the Harry Potter series. There were a lot of questions about why he was acted the way he was, and it was because Alan Rickman had the knowledge of the end before anybody else did, so he knew where that character was going. And I think I'm hoping we might have something similar here, where she knows where that character's going and what that character's aim is better than we do.
I hope based on what you were saying before, I really hope that's what's going on. And then we talked about like some people consider Leia to be miscast, but that the actress seems a little young. Yeah, she does seem small. I just keep saying that. Like, I have a small 9-year-old, and this one's even smaller.
You could say the same thing too, like in her relation to Luke, or Mark Hamill, whatever. That they were supposed to be twins, and he was, quite taller than her. Yeah, that's true. So that's just the way she is.
Yep.
I'm surrounded by giants, so I have no idea what a typical 9-year-old is supposed to look like.
Right. So let's talk about our thoughts for where the series is going. Do you think we will see more of Luke, or will it just be Leia as the object of Obi-Wan's protectiveness in this series? What do you think?
There was in the radio drama, Luke had a friend named Wendy, and he mentioned this one time when Ben rescued the two of them when they were in trouble with Tusken Raiders or something. I don't know. And, that was that radio drama. I know you're familiar with it. Had some basis in the deleted scenes and some other stuff from Lucas. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that it doesn't have to be, his obviously his first encounter with Ben wasn't when he met him in episode 4. He knew of him. Right. He had. So I think there's going to be some Luke. Yeah.
I think, but I think mostly we're getting the answer to the question: how did Leia know to contact Obi-Wan? Right. Like why was this? Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope. Why was that the situation? And I think this is the answer to it. Right.
My understanding was that was her father sent her to get the dual mission, and this isn't clear in episode 4, but it's
in Rogue One.
Is it in Rogue One that she's sent to get Obi-Wan?
Yes. He says, "I'm going to send Captain Antilles and a special ambassador to get our mutual friend," or something along those lines.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
But I feel like we're going to get the specific answer of why that's her response to, okay, we've been captured. What are we going to do now? And that's her saying, "Help us, Obi-Wan Kenobi, your only hope," is because of this situation,
this relationship that they have. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah. So she's not talking to him like someone she's never met.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Do you think we will see Tatooine at all again before the end of the series? Like the last episode? I
he's
hope
got to return there.
Yeah, he's got to go back, obviously. And I think,
well, if we're going to see Luke, we're going to,
yeah. Well, if we, I don't think we're going to see Luke again as part of this. Like, Luke will maybe just be there. We're not going to get an adventure where Obi-Wan is helping Luke. I don't think that's going to happen.
No, not a major thing. Now, did we see Beru in these first 2 episodes?
We didn't.
We didn't see her. She's credited.
And she's credited, so she's going to be there sooner or later. Is it going to be a speaking role? Is she, like a passing? Is she going to get more screen time than the older Beru got?
Right.
We don't know.
Right. And actually, my next question was something we just talked about. Like, does Senator Leia know that the Ben who rescued her in this is the Obi-Wan Kenobi in A New Hope? And Thomas, I gather it's yes.
I think so. Yes.
Okay.
I think she's going to find out in this series who he is.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I think she's too intelligent for the information to be withheld for long.
Right. I think that's going to be a big reveal moment. I mean, she now knows he's a Jedi, so I guess that's cat's out of that bag.
Do we know how much Bail told her about Kenobi? I mean,
no, I don't think he's probably told her anything. But I don't think. Yeah, we don't know. So, and then my last question is where do you think Obi-Wan will be mentally and emotionally at the end of all this? And I mean, honestly, the way I approach it is we're traveling, we're journeying from the traumatized Obi-Wan to the Obi-Wan who we find at the beginning of A New Hope. Where does he end? Is that where he ends in this series? Is settled and his mind is settled from the events and that sort of thing.
Living in his adobe hut and not in a cave.
He has to be ready for Maul, because the next time we see him is in Rebels, and it's that encounter with Maul.
Another thought I had relating to when he refuses to help the Jedi earlier in the episode is that when he meets Ezra on Tatooine, he helps Ezra and sends him on his way, whereas here he doesn't help him. That shows that he's changed even more than just the fear. There's been growth.
That's true. This is true. Yep. Yeah, that's a good point. By the way, Sam Witwer was at Celebration and did the Kenobi Maul scream, and it was awesome. You can find it online somewhere.
I think that we're gonna get Qui-Gon, helping him through this arc of his character, get to a place where he's more comfortable with what's going on and what his role is, and he's definitely he's uncomfortable. He's watching over this child. He's definitely got some tension and fear. Does he have a R2 unit like buried? That's what it looks like every time that arm comes up. Part of one. Okay, like the it's good or it's not good. Like the little warning system.
It's a trip warning. Someone's inside or not.
Yeah.
Well, we don't know where R2 is.
We're presuming he's still on the Tantive.
We saw C-3PO.
Unless he's on.
We saw C-3PO.
Well, we saw. No, did we? Wasn't that just a protocol droid?
No,
or was
there
that
was
C-3PO?
two different protocol droids. There was one silver one, but there was one gold one, and they lingered that shot. That was definitely C-3PO.
Because the voices I heard coming from them were that feminine, more voice of the female sounding robot.
That was the silver one. Yeah.
Okay. Did we hear Daniels as
no.
Okay.
No.
All right. So I was assuming it wasn't. I mean, the last time we saw them, this is before Rogue One, obviously. So it's wipe the protocol droid's memory and R2, and they're on the Tantive with Antilles.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know so they're in the possession of Bail Organa, like his droids.
Right.
And that's where they still are when we meet them in episode 4. So the only explanation is if they're not on Alderaan, they're on the Tantive.
That's
my guess.
Yeah.
There is a lot of room on Alderaan. It is a palace. And an astromech droid would be less likely to be a diplomatic reception.
My guess is the astromech droid is on board the ship, and that C-3PO ends up on the ship because he's Leia's personal protocol droid. In that sense. And so I think that's why they're there together on the ship at that time.
There was an interesting, another from the radio drama that him and R2 were programmed that she is a command control voice and are not to reveal her identity on the Tantive in the beginning of the happenings of episode 4.
Interesting.
And so you hear 3PO go, there's no escape for the princess this time. But when he gets down to Luke and Luke's like, who is she? He goes, I don't know. I think she's someone in importance, but I don't know who she is, which doesn't make sense if you don't have that order.
That's true. That's true. He is hiding her identity when they get to the planet. Yeah. Very interesting. All right. I think that should do it for this discussion, this very long discussion where we covered a lot of ground, but very productive, and very happy to start with this first 2 episodes of Kenobi. Want to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible to create Secrets of Star Wars, including Joe W., Cheryl W., Jonathan F., John D., and Kathy B., and Stephen B. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Star Wars and all the shows at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. If you have not yet done so, follow the Secrets of Star Wars in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, your favorite podcast app. We also have a YouTube channel where we post all the shows as audio plays. You can hit the bell to get notifications there. We would ask you to write an Apple Podcast review or wherever you get your podcast from, and share the podcast with your friends. We're going to be talking about, well, not me personally, probably, but the rest of the usual Secrets of Star Wars panel will be talking about Kenobi and then Andor and all the stuff that's coming up. You want to be subscribed and you want your friends to subscribe and then talk about it. You can get your very own Secrets of Star Wars t-shirt or phone case or all kinds of merch by visiting sqpn.com/merch. Be the cool guy on your block who's got a Secrets of Star Wars shirt.
All the cool guys.
Indeed.
I need one.
Yes, you do need one, Val.
They're not that easy to get, but if you go to the thing,
Yes, you can only get them at sqpn.com/merch.
Merch.
So we would love to hear from you. What did you think of the first 2 episodes of Kenobi and all those announcements at Celebration? You can let us know by commenting on the show at sqpn.com, our Facebook page, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. Send an email to starwars@sqpn.com, or visit the brand new StarQuest Discord community, which has been going awesome, at sqpn.com/Discord. And then, of course, we'll be back next time and we'll be discussing the next new episode of Kenobi. Until then, Thomas Sanjurjo, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of Star Wars.
It's been excellent.
Mike Denz, thank you as well.
And thank you to all the panelists who couldn't do it, so my dream came true to be on an episode of Secrets of Star Wars.
That's awesome. And Isabella, thank you as well.
It was my pleasure.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Star Wars on StarQuest. And remember, this is where the fun begins.